great stuff on the writing I did last night.
Oh, I've
So
got to tell
yeah,
you a story
I
about.
got to share some stuff.
You asked for Airbnb stories. I have an Airbnb story too.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Joe Plus.
That's only on exclusively
All
Sigmund
right.
Bloom's stories of the Airbnb. Sorry, Joe Plus.
Let's get this thing going. 3, 2, 1.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Footballguys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It is week 13 preview part 1 here on the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, it's Sigmund Bloom. And Bloom, it's Bills and Patriots. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Isaiah McKenzie, are we relying on him? Like, we can. Who's Bill Belichick going to try to take away? Right? People have asked that.
Right.
I think I saw it on Twitter or something, and they were like, "Is that even possible?" It might have been the chat room, right?
Mhm.
Is that even possible for Belichick to take someone away? And does it even matter against Josh Allen and the Bills?
Yeah, this game, wow, there's a lot on the line. This should be another game that reminds us we're at the part of the NFL season where the screws get tightened. Because Buffalo, remember, earlier this year, Buffalo, Josh Allen, this is going to be a triumphant story, one step further on the mountain. Now nothing is promised to this team. They have to finish out this season. And they just got taken to overtime by Detroit. And hey, that might mean Detroit is coming on. Let's not take away from Detroit. But they're in a dogfight. And of course, New England, it's not the same as the Brady Belichick New England, but it is a game in Foxborough. And the stakes are high. New England's trying to also stay in the playoff picture too. Wouldn't they like nothing more than to get themselves back more firmly in the playoff picture and bring down Buffalo with them? And Buffalo, on the other hand, can help to vanquish the hated Patriots. And like you said, Cecil, the first thing I have down in my notes is will Allen stick with McKenzie? We saw on Thanksgiving McKenzie playing a big role. It's been an up and down ride. He's obviously a risky play, but as things are getting tougher on Josh Allen, that is an easy high percentage target for him. And that worked out on Thanksgiving. So we're going to watch that trend. Gabriel Davis, I'm not as sure about. Now, they do have good outside corner play, as always. Jack Jones, John Jones, they just keep finding these guys. J.C. Jackson, just stick with the J's. And Gabriel Davis hasn't been getting the big plays, hasn't been as consistent. So we're going to watch that. Maybe only one of McKenzie and Davis can go off in a given week, maybe even Dawson Knox. Remember, he had 2 good games before last week. So spin the wheel, roll the dice at tight end. Maybe roll the dice with Devin Singletary. We're continuing to watch the story of Buffalo becoming more balanced. Things are getting tougher for Josh Allen, and they're becoming more balanced. And don't forget James Cook. So this will be a good chance to watch James Cook. His opportunity is still there. He's not playing more than 25% of the snaps, but when he's on the field, he often gets the ball or gets a look in the passing game.
It's kind of a tell, honestly, when you watch the Bills. You're like, oh, here comes the toss play.
Right. However, if he starts to make some impact plays, then we may see his role grow. And there's always the chance that Devin Singletary gets hurt and Cook would be the next man up. So we'll get a chance to watch him. Thursday night game, a really intriguing Thursday night game in the really intriguing AFC East.
Well, and I don't know about you, but they're using Gabe Davis wrong. Like, they're using him wrong. Like, he's not that guy. And they're like, let's just go move the chains. How about a curl route? Anyway,
no, he's not.
Patriots side of things. Hey, huh? I don't know, Bloom. It's not very interesting and it's kind of ugly. So let's talk about New England on a short week and anybody like even Ramondre Stevenson, who's fine. I've never been a Stevenson fan. That's one of those Matt and I argue over running back sometimes, and it's fun, right?
Yeah.
And Stevenson was one of those guys. When I saw him at the Senior Bowl, I was like, he's a fullback. And Matt's like, he's got more talent than that. And he certainly does. You're right. Yeah. Matt Maldwin was right. How many times do we say that, Bloom, right? 1 million. Yeah. But like Stevenson's not all that. Like he's that, but he's not all of that. And you might have to rely on him this week.
He's going to be fine for fantasy because of the PPR points, because he's going to be relied on by Mac Jones in the passing game. So that's because Damian Harris is hurt. We'll see enough Ramondre Stevenson that you should plug him in and count on him. Buffalo's defense, again, early this year, we saw them as a shutdown unit, even without Tre'Davious White. Had some injuries at safety. They've got some injuries up front. Von Miller's hurt right now. So not necessarily a limiting factor. This could be a high-scoring game. Remember last week, Minnesota and New England on Thanksgiving. played 33-26 game. I could see a score like that in this game. That means success for New England, maybe in the passing game. And this is a matchup for Mac Jones. I don't know if it's his toughest matchup left, but that underscores, as we talked about on the waiver wire show, Cease, a good passing game schedule defense-wise for Mac Jones. Let's see if he can continue to get some momentum going. We're looking at him maybe as a streamer, a super flex play, and then sorting out the pass catchers. Jacoby Myers has been very reliable. Got hurt last week. If he hadn't got hurt and played the whole game, I think he would have been a good play. I think that if he gets at least limited practices, it's Wednesday, so we'll see. If he's not a true game time decision where you feel like there's risk of re-injury or being limited, then I'm probably going to go with him. However, there's still the door open here for Nelson Aguilar, for Devontae Parker. There has been a connection with Mac Jones and Devontae Parker where Mac Jones understands how to throw the ball to Devontae Parker, like the area you want to put it in, the warm, the hot zone, the above the rim area where Devontae Parker does his damage. And then there's Hunter Henry. This week it's Hunter Henry. Maybe. Last week it was. Maybe it's Johnny Smith. Again, it's a mess. It's sometimes efficient. It has been efficient earlier this year. It was more efficient with Bailey Zappi, and it needs to be efficient if they're going to get this win.
Yeah, if they're going to get this win. And Mo says we need to put Sigmund Bloom on the couch.
Every day. That's what you all don't know is every show, every day, I'm getting free therapy from you all. So it's we're all in our own On the Couch episode all the time.
You said the magic word.
Yeah, every day.
You miss me every day, don't you?
Vic Fangio. But let's cease. Let's set the record straight, okay? Because we had some fun with Vic Fangio on this show. We had a lot of fun with Vic Fangio on the show. However, a lot of the credit that's being given to defenses and how they're able to slow down the pass enough to make the pendulum shift back to the run starts with Vic Fangio. So his fingerprints are on football with a capital F right now.
Yep. And Denver's got Happy Fun Baby Star. By the way, you need to hit the couch and I need to hit the shower because apparently when Bloom saw my get up, everybody, you know what he said? He said, "You look like Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi." Yeah. I was like, that's the one where he's a hermit. I want to look like Luke Skywalker from the holiday special where he's wearing mascara and blush. He was wearing makeup and it was brilliant.
It's time to remind everyone to go back and watch the holiday special.
Watch the holiday. It's like,
and while you're watching it, remind yourself this was on broadcast TV at a time when broadcast TV it was on for like tens of millions of people.
Yeah,
and it was the first
Star Wars holiday special,
and it was the first. Like Star Wars was a massive cultural sensation, and this is the first thing that surfaced after that. Just keep that all in mind if you've never seen it. Go find it, watch it.
Then watch Chewbacca's dad be a pervert. Anyway,
among other things, there's all kinds of weird stuff. It 70s, really shows you where it really shows you where the culture was in the 70s as far as norms.
B. Arthur's in it, right? Like Golden Girls.
There's other people. There's people who make their way into the who's the guy from the honeymoon? Art Carney's in it too, right?
Art Carney's in it.
Yeah. So all these people have places, and this is the Star Wars. It's the Easter egg Star Wars. Anyway, go watch it if you haven't seen it. Go watch it.
And the first appearance of Boba Fett. Anyway, we got to talk about not Boba Fett, but the Steelers and the Falcons. Oh boy, Steelers and Falcons, and man, George Pickens is special, dude. That's a special kid. Now, what's he do with Kenny Pickett in the future and all that? And I guess Najee Harris is going to get 1 million carries, right? Is that over under? What's the over under 1 million carries? But either way, we know what the Steelers want to do. We know who they'll want to do it with, but how will they do it on the road against the Falcons?
Yeah. Let's have another episode of a neurotic Steelers fan. Cease.
Oh, God.
Well, because so I'm toying with this idea earlier in the season, right? Okay, well, if Kenny Pickett plays well enough that they get enough wins that they're not a top 10 picking team, then let's give Pickett a chance. But if Pickett and the team loses enough that they're in the top 5 and they have a chance to take a top quarterback, then that's your evidence that you should just take the top quarterback. Now that we're actually there, Cease, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of the Steelers winning against these mediocre teams.
Right.
And then that means, because it isn't like they're winning because of Kenny Pickett. They're not exactly winning in spite of Kenny Pickett. He's just kind of along for the ride.
You're just reinforcing things, though.
Yes. It's a scrappy Steelers team, scrappy play. Well, but you have knockout punch physical talents like George Pickens, and you can't take advantage of that with scrappy play. We'll see. The backfield's a big question. They got the ball going in the running game. Benny Snell revival, but chances are this is going to be too muddled. Benny Snell would be a desperation play, even if Jaylen Warren isn't healthy. And the passing game, we were waiting for ceiling games. AJ Terrell is probably going to be on George Pickens. I'm not saying don't play George Pickens, but Terry McLaurin had 4 for 48 last week. Deontay Johnson, we're waiting. Right, so this is one of those ones where if you want a reason to play Deontay Johnson, it's AJ Terrell is going to be on Pickens, and maybe that gets more targets to Johnson. Probably just means more targets for Freiermuth, or just the offense not functioning as well. And so what's there? Pat Freiermuth, I guess. And what's there for the Steelers? A pick. It's like remember where the Bills were always picking between like 7 and 11 Cease? I really was 8 and 11.
Yeah,
7
that was the Sammy Watkins, CJ Spiller type days. Yeah.
All that, Dante Whitner, and I feel like that's where the Steelers are headed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep, and they'll just keep promoting it, keep enforcing it. Now on the Atlanta side, it's a similar story with Marcus Mariota, Bloom, but there's an expiration date, right? Because he's not a rookie. He's not a first round rookie. He's a first rounder, but from years ago. But like with Mariota, it's like, okay, you keep winning, or at least even be competitive like they've been. That's going to keep Arthur Smith keeping everything going. And what the hell does that mean for fantasy GMs? They're at home, but again, you said scrappy Steelers team with a defense that can get after you.
Scrappy teams, right? Remember, didn't Pittsburgh and Atlanta play an epic overtime game in Three Rivers? Michael Vick back in the day. This was an exciting matchup when it would happen. Not so much now. Mariota's going to be safe with the ball, keeping this team competitive. Like you said, Cease, keep them competitive. And you feel for Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith's almost like it's time for the family vacation and the car needed to be serviced, but we didn't have time or money to do it. So you still got to go get the car out there and get the kids excited, and we're going to go to Disneyland. But obviously this car it's running out of gas. And we were wondering, when are we going to see Desmond Ridder? But they're only a half game out of first place right now. So Marcus Mariota, Arthur Smith are going to continue to try to make this happen. And they might against the Steelers with the running game. And don't you see in your mind's eye, Cease, Cordero Patterson getting free at least once, that the Steelers overplay the run, and a cut back lane for Cordero, and he's gone. I'm not saying play Cordero Patterson. He's more of a what the heck flex. Remember, he was the guy targeted on that should have been go ahead touchdown, but Deron Payne got his big paw up there, and there was an interception.
What did Mariota say? Like, I thought it was a good call.
Yeah, it was. Patterson was in the middle of the field by himself for the touchdown. So if he scores that touchdown, we're feeling better about playing him last week. He was more involved as a receiver. So if you want a chance to play there, but this is it's going to be not a great offensive game. Maybe a game where guys like AJ Terrell, TJ Watt, all the initials, are going to maybe influence this game. A big play on defense, and we'll see. But it's depressing where the Steelers are right now. And if Trent McDuffie was a Steeler instead of Kenny Pickett, and we were watching Mason Rudolph start, I'd be just fine with that.
Just fine, perfectly okay with that. That would be fantastic. If Aaron Rodgers didn't play, that would be fantastic.
Oh, depressing.
But as we mentioned on the Waiver Wire show, like that's him. It's if he wants to play, then he'll play. So what kind of trip is Aaron Rodgers going to have, pun intended, to Chicago? And well, what does that mean for the rest of the Packers offense this week? It could be good things. It could be a flashback, Bloom.
Right.
Or it could just be another sign that, oh boy, Rodgers should maybe shut it down for this year.
Right. Maybe an omen. That was incredible conceptual continuity there, Cease. Flashback. Can we take a moment right now and say this is getting really sad to watch? It's a tragedy.
It's Joe Namath with the Rams or whatever. Like, I know that's way
but
before
he's still
our time,
in Green Bay. But he's still in Green Bay. And I really
Brett Favre with the Jets, right? That's something a little newer.
Cease, I don't even want to say I'm a fan or I'm not a fan of Aaron Rodgers the person, because I feel like Aaron Rodgers is still trying to figure out who Aaron Rodgers the person is. Still at this juncture of his life, maybe in some ways because he was such an incredible Hall of Fame success in professional football that he hasn't really gotten around to that yet. Don't we all need to work on that? But it's sad. And when I thought of this game, Cease, when I was thinking about this game for the show today, I'm picturing, when you think Aaron Rodgers in Chicago, what do you immediately think of? I own you.
I own you.
I own you. And is that why he rallied? Is that why he said, I'm going to play? You know, because that's your old glory, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you feel it, because you just, and I feel for him also because it's the injuries, and he's going to play if he wants to play, and
ribs and a thumb.
Yeah. And who knows, internal organs, who knows? But at the same time, he's on his quest. So it's the Chicago defense. Come on. Like, we're going to watch Mike White against Minnesota and see how much of what we saw last week was the Chicago defense now without Eddie Jackson, basically the linchpin of the entire secondary. So from a fantasy standpoint, if you want to believe in Aaron Rodgers this week, could be my guest. I mean, it really could happen. This could be the last great Aaron Rodgers game for all we know. But it also could be a game, like you said, Cecil, that shows like he's just too banged up. Like, it's sad that he's forcing himself out there. And I'm a little disappointed, to be honest, that we're not seeing Jordan Love show what he can do. Let's just see. I just want to add it to my database of this is how Jordan Love looks at this point in his career development. But from a fantasy standpoint, you're playing Christian Watson. He just keeps continuing to find a way to make an impact in the box score. Aaron Jones, obviously. A.J. Dillon's coming on. We're watching him. He's still an injury upside backup. And that's about it. You know, Lazard, we're probably not going near with Watson emerging, although it is Chicago, so it could hit as a what the heck flex. Randall Cobb's similarly a what the heck flex, helping Rodgers more than helping your fantasy lineup. But yeah, this is where we are. See, so I almost wonder if it's like the escalators, like one going up, one going down, and you're passing each other on the way up, way down. How you doing? See you later.
Right. What's going on? Now, the Bears have a bye in week 14, Bloom, which is like, why?
Yeah.
We're still doing buys. Like, we have Arizona and Carolina on bye this week. Yeah. But it's like week 14, you're going to have bye? Okay, whatever. So does that influence the decision on Justin Fields at all? Because you'd have an extra week of rest if you just had him take this week off. But, you know, Fields, you ever ask the player, they're always going to want to play. So what's the story? What's the scoopage with the Bears now with less Darnell Mooney? And that makes me sad.
Yeah, it is sad. But overall, this story is getting a lot sunnier. Can I just piggyback off of what you said, Cease, and just put this out there in the universe?
Yeah.
17 games is weird, right? It's in prime number. It makes the schedule asymmetrical. So here's a solution. Just play a 16-game season in 18 weeks and give every team 2 buys. How hard is that?
They had 2 buys in the 90s, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they did for a couple years, I think.
It makes sense because the game is so brutal.
Yeah.
And it's a war of attrition. And also, it brings fortune more where you have the buys spread out, and whether you got an early season buy or a late season buy. And hey, it's up to you to make the most out of your buy, but it can be all the difference, right? Like a buy can come just in time for a team that needs it. Sometimes a buy can slow down the momentum of a team that's red hot early in the season. Anyway, Justin Fields shouldn't play. I don't think he should play for the rest of the year, but if you give him a chance to play, he's going to play. Let's project this game with Trevor Siemian, though. And either way, the passing game, as we saw, it's going to be small without Darnell Mooney, especially small. So Cole Kmet, for sure, roll the dice. Chase Claypool. You're going to play David Montgomery. With only 17 touches last week, he was over 100 yards against a Jets defense that we respect. But Darrington Evans says, I'm here. He's healthy. Got 10 touches last week. Had one of those long plays in the passing game. So we'll watch that as he's overtaking Tristan Ebner. And again, for Chicago, you're happy. You know, it's time to go to sleep for the Bears, but you're going to sleep with a smile on your face, knowing when you wake up, it's going to be different.
We're getting big hats, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That's just going to be a thing. We are getting Brian
sombreros.
Robinson, big hats. Yeah.
That don't fit in the frame. Hats that don't fit in the frame.
Yes. Turd Ferguson, like the foam cowboy hat, right?
Right. See, this is the thing. If you're not in the YouTube show and you're not seeing the comments, you're not understanding this part of the show. This is a teaser. This is to pull you in. There's another dimension to the show that you're missing.
Yes, we just pull you in like a tractor beam, right? Sure hope that old man turned off the tractor beam. Jacksonville and Detroit is up next. And, well, Jacksonville, the thing about the Jaguars, Bloom, is I want to continue to see the progression of Trevor Lawrence. From fantasy, like, I don't even really care because I don't have any Jaguars, which is funny because we talked about Zay Jones. Zay Jones could have been our cover athlete for the Waiver Wire show, right? Like, so, okay, so you've got some decisions there. And I guess we got good news on Travis Etienne. So that's good news for that. But for me, it's all about the maturity and further development of Trevor Lawrence. So against the Lions, who can rally, maybe not play the greatest defensive football, like what do the Jaguars show? And then the fantasy assets therein, are you trusting your Christian Kirks, your Zay Joneses, etc.?
Yeah, this is a fun game. This should be a fun game for fantasy too. I call this one the Optimism Bowl. Talking about Chicago, let's talk about two more teams. If you're a fan of this team, if you're a fan of the Jags, if you're a fan of the Lions.
Oh, Jacksonville's ahead of Detroit, my opinion.
Sure.
Better quarterback.
Because they have a quarterback. Because they have a quarterback and they have a coach.
They have a better coach.
Well,
until Dan Campbell wins the Super Bowl,
exactly. They have a coach who's been there, done that. Yeah.
Yes.
They have a coach who's. I think that Dan Campbell. If we're going to digress for a second, I think Dan Campbell was the right coach to bring a team from zero, where I think Doug Peterson was more like, let's pick up the pieces and rebuild from the rubble that we have. Right. But Dan Campbell was the right coach when you're leveling everything. Like you're just scorched earth. Let's start over. Anyway, this is a fun game for that reason, though. Both teams are feeling optimistic, right? I know Detroit lost to Buffalo, but they took Buffalo to overtime on Thanksgiving in a showcase game for your city, for your franchise. And they've on a winning streak. Remember, they thumped the Giants, a team that's still potentially going to go to the playoffs. And for Jacksonville, you had that signature fourth quarter comeback win, topped by the signature 2-point conversion throw. To remind me, Cecil, of Deshaun Watson to Hunter Renfrow. Just one of those plays where you're like, if everyone executes, we're going to win. We executed, we won. And let's keep reproducing that. So this is a fun game, and it should be a fun game for fantasy. Lawrence, man, I tell you, if you don't have one of those quarterbacks, one of the quarterbacks that you automatically start every week, and Kyler Murray's on bye, so you might be looking for, in my guillotine league, I have to cover for Kyler Murray, and I'm looking at these names like Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith, like names that we've been trusting over Trevor Lawrence. But looking at Trevor Lawrence, the way he's playing right now, going into Detroit, maybe you're going with Trevor Lawrence this week. And that means if you're optimistic about him, you're optimistic about Zay Jones, who you might play over Christian Kirk. Like if you could only pick one Jags receiver this week with the momentum. Remember, they called Zay Jones' number on the 2-pointer, but Christian Kirk, we know, can also have those big games. I'll see if Jeffrey Okudah is back. You can see that this passing game, even Evan Engram maybe can catch a wave here. It's tight end, roll the dice. Why not? Because it's a good matchup. And a team, an offense with some momentum. You're going to play Travis Etienne, but know that he's a true boom bust play. He could have 200 total yards and 2 touchdowns. He could limp off after the first series. So
after the first play.
Yeah. So we'll watch. But this is going to be a really fun game to watch, and a game that for fantasy you want a part of. And certainly for DFS, I would dabble with a lineup that's just all from this game.
So I guess DeAndre Swift is the third string back now. Like, is that how it works? Like,
yeah,
man, Jamal Williams, your friend and mine. I love Jamal.
Right.
Jamal is such a great spirit. He has great energy, like a great young man, always has been, and works his ass off. So congratulations for his success this season. So Swift is sleeper of the week. Is that possible? Okay, maybe. Yeah. Let's talk about the sun god, and let's talk about the return of Jameson Williams. Will it happen? We're recording on Wednesday morning, just full disclosure. Right. But if Jameson Williams plays, you know who my sleeper of the week is? It's Jameson Williams. I want to see that kid out there, man, even if it's just a play. Like that sort of, you have a catch for 75 yards and a touchdown. Like that speed, that explosiveness, and, maybe they ease him in or whatever. I want to see it, and you bet your ass I want to put my chips on it, man.
Yeah, I think that, we talked about Star Wars already once in this episode. This is, speaking of episodes, Star Wars did a really great job always of putting that scene after the credits to make you really excited to watch the next thing, whatever the next thing is, right? And this is, Jameson Williams is that scene, right? Coming soon to the Lions offense. Let's get a quarterback. Not that Jared Goff is terrible, but this is going to be a team that's going to be aggressive on offense, and a team that already functions really well on offense, which means Jamal Williams stays in your lineup as a running back too. It's working. It's just, he's not going to add a lot as a receiver. He's not going to necessarily have a 100-yard day as a runner, but he gives you the potential for 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Remember, Gus Edwards got one last week. Jared Goff is a fine streamer, and I think that, again, could be a high-scoring game. This offense consistently produces touchdowns. Again, this is why you're playing Jamal Williams. It's why you could do worse than Jared Goff. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown. It feels like forever ago that we were debating Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's over. Mm-hmm. There's a winner declared here. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it's the Lions, for understanding, because what was some of the hesitation on Amon-Ra St. Brown? His measurables, his draft capital. But we also know, much like running back, I do think the NFL is catching up to the idea that slot receiver is kind of a replaceable position, and you can not invest as much and have somebody who can do the job really well, and then the scheme does the rest. So Amon-Ra St. Brown in another offense, he might be a player that we talk about as much as we talked about Tyler Boyd, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in this offense, at least but the difference is when Jameson Williams gets going, that's not going to take away from Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's just going to add to his opportunities to create big plays after the catch, right? To get that step because the defense is on their heels. So again, optimism, excitement. DeAndre Swift is the only reason to not be excited here. And this is a real riddle. And my good friend Uriah Zane Hunt, via 313, know it, love it, the best Detroit style pizza in the universe. He and I were talking about the Lions. He's a Detroit guy, and he said he suspects, I'm just going to put this out there because it makes sense if you're doing the deductive logic, Cease, that there's more to whatever's going on with Swift and the team than just what they last year. There was reportedly something about like playing hurt versus playing injured, right?
Right.
But that's kind of cryptic. I mean, what side, who was on what side of that and everything, right? And it seemed like it was already happening again this year, right? With the shoulder, but they're still just easing him in. They're not using him like a foundational player. Now, if they don't use him this week after 10 days rest, because maybe you would say, well, Thanksgiving, just you don't want to push him too hard. But if we don't get him back up to 50, 60% snap participation at this point, you really do have to wonder why. It's kind of like the Kyle Pitts question. Why would there be a player that you invested this much in that you're not willing to make important in your offense? What's going on? So I think for fantasy, that's something we're wondering about. And obviously, it's an important question because Swift could be one of those players. We know he has 25, 30-point upside, even getting 50% of the snaps. We just need to see it. And if we don't see it in this game, we lose a lot of faith down the stretch.
Do you have faith in Mike White? That's what the next question is. When we talk about the Jets and the Vikings, it is part one of the Week 13 preview here on the Audible and the Jets side of things. We're watching the backfield, which is, I don't know. Right now, as we record on Wednesday morning, Bloom, if you have Michael Carter, you don't know. If you have Solomon Knight, you don't know. I got Ty Johnson off the waiver wire. I don't know. I picked up James Robinson a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. And then Mike White, okay. Garrett Wilson, yes. Dash Elijah Moore, sure. Maybe some Tyler Gronklin, okay. But there's a lot of I don't know with this Jets squad traveling to Minnesota.
Yeah. And one of the things that struck me as I was picturing this game, Cease, is who had this game having this much on the line with these teams where they are back in like March. Somebody, one of the wonderful people who I interact with on Twitter, brought up that when the Vikings brought in Zadarius Smith, I put out there, like, if they think they're going to compete with Green Bay and Tampa Bay and the Rams, and they're not just competing, obviously. They're one of the teams that's a class of the NFC. But are they really? Philly smoked them. I mean, this is a team, Dallas smoked them. Those are playoff teams in the NFC. So really, are they really one of the class of the NFC? But at the same time, they're going to win the division. They're going to host a playoff game. And we're going to see how they measure up against a Jets team that also is pushing for a playoff berth with this quarterback question central. Now, for fantasy, Mike White is a boom bust play. You see the boom. But last year, remember, after that big 400-yard, 3-touchdown game, then came the bust, and then came him getting replaced. So in your super flex 2 quarterback leagues, don't forget about Joe Flacco. This is a tougher defense. How much of last week was the Chicago defense? This isn't a great defense, but it's definitely a tougher defense than Chicago right now. Total shrug your shoulders, right? Somebody said about the waiver wire this week at running back Cease. So you're telling me there are all these running backs that can get anywhere from 1 to 15 points next week. Yeah. I mean, that's the Jets backfield, right? I mean, maybe 20, maybe 1 to 20 points. And that's why you're interested, because this offense should revolve around the backfield. And whether it's Zonovan Knight, who has the momentum, Ty Johnson also has momentum and experience. James Robinson has the spirit, but no momentum. I don't think Michael Carter's going to play. If Michael Carter's active, maybe this is a stay away, at least until we see the inactives and see if James Robinson's down again. But know that the Jets offense can be good enough to support 2 running backs when it's good. It might still be good in the second game with Mike White. You're going to play Garrett Wilson. We're going to check in on Elijah Moore, see if there's something there. His role is still small. And then, of course, Tyler Conklin. What's the theme at tight ends? He's roll the dice. See, maybe you'll get box cars. You never know.
Right. You just never know about that side, and you never know about Kirk Cousins. You do know about Dalvin Cook. All right. So you want to reset everything. And the Jets have a very stout front that loves to get after it. So how do you protect Kirk Cousins from that? You just smash box. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Just run it up the middle and just try to soften them up as much as you possibly can. Does that work? And then, of course, you just let Justin Jefferson do everything and let him take over.
Yeah, I think you could have success here for Dalvin Cook. I know he got bottled up by New England last week, but I think that was also the classic Bill Belichick. We're going to take away something that makes you comfortable and test you. The Jets, I don't think, can take away Dalvin Cook. I think you could see Cook get free for some big plays here. And, of course, you got Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, Sauce Gardner, that would be fun. Jets defense can be tough, but Kirk Cousins in this Vikings offense, what a midseason addition, TJ Hawkinson. And what it's done for fantasy teams. But I think it also means that he's activated the tight end position that Irv Smith was not able to activate, right? Or it adds more than Tyler Conklin added in last year in terms of that third fiddle, really more the second fiddle, although Adam Thielen is also starting to come on. Don't we love this offense for fantasy, Cease? Like, we can talk about the Jets and there's all this confusion. It's going to be Dalvin Cook. It's going to be Justin Jefferson. It's going to be TJ Hawkinson. And lately, I think we can see this could be Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins. But this is a good test for Minnesota because they failed against Philly and they failed against Dallas. And the Jets aren't at that level, but check in on where you're at because the Jets are a team that will make you show up. And we saw a couple weeks ago, they did not do that at home against Dallas.
That's fantastic. By the way, Fenton was learning how to change an alternator in his F-150, and it took him here.
Okay.
Thank you, recommended videos. See, this is why I watch all the car videos.
Right.
I watch a lot of car videos, lots of interesting channels, let's just say. Religious history channels, Bloom, video game channels, like, and of course, comic books, nothing but comic books. But yeah, maybe me learning how to change out wheel bearings in my Ford Focus brought Fenton here because he was learning how to change it all. You can learn anything on YouTube, man.
Isn't that funny?
It's awesome.
Isn't it funny that YouTube thinks we are football guys, right? Like what you and I do sometimes when we're in YouTube is attributed to football guys. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe Plus. Coming soon, hopefully. Anyway, let's move on. Commanders and Giants is next, and interesting game that we didn't think would be interesting, but it's only interesting if the Giants can actually be better.
Maybe.
Right. So it's like question mark, interesting, question mark. Interesting on the Commander side, YOLO ball, Taylor Heineke, of course, blah, blah. We could continue on with that. It's Jahan Dotson, my sleeper of the week. It seems like he is every week, Bloom. So we'll continue that conversation about what the Commanders do. And our guy, Brian Robinson with the big hats. Look at my funny hat. The Commanders on the road against the Giants could control this one.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what Ron Rivera wants to do. Again, Bloom, for me, this whole game preview turns on how much effort do the Giants show?
Well, the Giants almost running a little train that's kind of running out of gas at this point. But one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. Both of these teams can make the playoffs. Real interesting scenario here where they play 2 of the next 3 weeks. And if one of these teams can sweep this series, they're almost certainly going to make the playoffs. I'm assuming that playing well enough to sweep the series means they still have another win or 2 left in them. Because you look over the rest of the NFC Cease, NFC North was sending 1 team, Minnesota. NFC South is sending 1 team. Tampa, probably, maybe Atlanta. We'll see about Seattle. They lost to the Raiders last week. So NFC West going to send a team, maybe 2, but that means Dallas, Philly, and a 3rd team is going to come from the NFC East, and maybe the NFC East could send all 4. It's possible. I know mathematically it's possible. So you're really looking at Seattle and San Francisco, and if they both finish strong, then 3 teams come from this division, but still one of these 2 teams will be that 3rd team, and this series they're going to play over the next 3 weeks is going to determine that. Washington has a bye in between. Taylor Heineke, Cecil, you just don't want him to influence the game too much, right? I mean, if you're Washington, you're just like, hey, let's play a game where his play doesn't matter as much. And McLaurin will get his shots against the Giants, but that's it. You're looking at Curtis Samuel. Someone reminded me he should have been Q the Chuck D this week. Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas. Nah, it's Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. And know that Antonio Gibson was still this is still basically a 50-50 committee. It was the conditions, it was the game script, it was the character of how that game was going that they leaned on Brian Robinson. They're both running back to flex plays. This should be a competitive game. But for the Giants, like you said, Cecil, is this another game like the Lions game, like the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving showing? It was a nice story for a while, but we got a little ahead of ourselves. You just want to get the ship turned around. The cruise ship, we're not ambitious yet, making our itinerary for where ports we're going to visit. Let's just get off the iceberg. Let's get off the rocks. Brian Dable's done that. Maybe that's all this team is capable of this year.
Maybe. Giants side of things is lots of maybes there as well, Bloom.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. And, well, who the hell's going to be out there for them with their banged up wide receiver group?
Exactly. See, this is my notes. I'm just going to read my notes about the Giants. Daniel Jones can only do so much. Saquon Barkley can only do so much. Darius Slayton can only do so much. Daniel Bellinger, he can still only do so much. And Washington's defense is surging right now. They may get Chase Young back. Defensive line is looking fierce. They're influencing the game. So you're going to play Saquon Barkley, but wow, it would have been great if you traded Saquon Barkley like 5 weeks ago in your redraft league. Because it's just, I think that Houston game, and I wonder if they're internally examining the decision to give him 35 carries. He's not Gerald Riggs. Okay. That's not his style. And that's not the kind of running back he is. And he hasn't been the same since then. And they're also not getting him involved creatively in the passing game, which was part of why we got excited and got back in on him this offseason, saying I'm detached from the formation. They're not doing that stuff. And you would think with the problems they have in the passing game, that would have been, this would be like Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler. So you're going to play Barkley, not so much in DFS. Slayton, Richie James, Daniel Bellinger again. Sure, Daniel Jones even as a runner, you never know, he could hit. But chances are this is just more of a downward trend for this offense and for this team in a season that will still represent an upward trend considering where they started.
Tyler-esque with the on the couch reference. We should get you a couch. Like we need on the couch. I think that would be awesome. And you could either do like the black leather one where that's you can lean back, like the chaise, right?
Right. The one that you actually has, it's like a recliner couch.
Yeah. So you could do that, and you could be like super comfortable, which would be interesting. Or it could be like an old dingy like 70s couch, right? Speaking of 70s, you brought up Gerald Riggs. I was like, you got something a little newer for the kids. Maybe Jamal Anderson, maybe, right? Or Larry Johnson, right? Kansas City's Larry Johnson. I'm just trying to think of that old rule of 375. Don't give him three.
Right.
Does anyone get half of 375, Eddie? Like, oh my God.
Derrick Henry.
Rule of 375. It's rule of like 175 now.
Right.
Anyway, Tennessee and Philadelphia, Titans and Eagles. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hesitate saying Super Bowl preview for the Titans side, but for the Eagles side, we certainly could see that. So Tennessee side, it's simple, it's easy. Lots of Derrick Henry. Philadelphia, get ready, especially with the problems that they've had before their free agent additions and stuffing the run. Well, they're definitely going to get tested this week. So it's as much Henry as you possibly can count on. And then as we talked about with Ryan Tannehill in the waiver wire show, is it more Treylon Burks? Like, are we going to see more of these receiving assets that we don't normally rely on for fantasy purposes?
Yeah. So interesting the way the NFL sees. I'm going to talk stories. I'm going to talk narrative, but it's so interesting the way that events happen in the off season that intertwine the destiny of teams. And then the schedule maker gods sometimes give us that moment that crystallizes exactly how what happened twisted and turned the destinies of these teams. We had this in week one. We didn't realize it, right? Seattle, Denver. We didn't realize it, that the universe was showing us, the football gods were showing us, everybody was wrong. Russell Wilson was actually holding the Seahawks back. And no, it's not a new age era for Denver. It's actually a new age era for Seattle, right? So this game is real interesting for the A.J. Brown trade, right? Because on one hand, you have Tennessee trading A.J. Brown and Philadelphia saying, yes, please, thank you. Here's your $100 million. We're so excited. And look at what's going on. It couldn't have been a bigger success. But Treylon Burks has been affecting games lately. Treylon Burks is healthy. So what happens in this game? Is this Treylon Burks? Is this actually Tennessee saying, we you can feel like you won the trade, but we won the game, and we have Treylon Burks on a rookie contract, and look at how much he influenced this game that we won in your house, right? Or is it a game where A.J. Brown puts his stamp on the game and says, you could have had this, you could have had this, and you decided not to have this, and that's why you lost. What a game. What an interesting game. And like you said, Super Bowl implications really for both teams, because Tennessee should be able to be the number 1 seed again. Will Tannehill step up? No CD Deuce. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that big addition right before the season, he's out with the internal injury. We'll see if he even plays again this year. Is that an important player in this defense? Can Ryan Tannehill and company, Treylon Burks, take advantage of that? Fantasy-wise, you're not necessarily looking for other plays here, but just know that how these players, Nick Westbrook-Akina, and Robert Woods and Austin Hooper, you roll the dice on Austin Hooper, roll the dice on any tight end. I'm not going to talk you out any tight end. How they play, whether they can make plays. Dontrell Hilliard. I want to see a couple more Dontrell Hilliard drives a game. This offense, it's not just resting Derrick Henry, but that's part of it. That's part of it. Like, let Derrick Henry have like whole series off, okay? But when this offense goes up tempo, that's whenever I think you start to feel Ryan Tannehill get more comfortable as a passer. And it simulates, it's going to happen in the playoffs that Ryan Tannehill's going to have to make plays for them to win, right? We saw it last year against Cincinnati. Not Derrick Henry. The games are not going to ride on Derrick Henry converting a 4th and 1. Okay, the games are going to ride on Ryan Tannehill making passes on 3rd and whatever. So those quick up-tempo, no-huddle drives that are Dontrell Hilliard drives, I think they allow them to exercise a muscle in their offense that they're going to need if they want to go farther in the playoffs. Derrick Henry is going to go against Philadelphia's defensive line. Oh boy. You remember they signed in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, and they still have Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. Boy, Steelers let a good one get away there. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and we knew it.
Good players get away.
And we knew it. We knew it.
We knew it.
But Philadelphia, to their credit, and this is why I love Howie Roseman, not only because I've been drinking with him, but like, dude, what was it? One game? Yeah. One game? Well, it was more than one game, but like they're getting their ass run over, and they're like, what do we do? Oh, go sign 3 guys. Okay.
Yeah. That's responsiveness.
Why don't more teams do that? Like, hey, we suck. Yeah, just keep sucking.
It's not fantasy football. Well, maybe it should be. Maybe you should actually run a team like you run a fantasy football team.
That's why Howie Roseman. He's the snip, snap, snap.
Yeah. So what are we seeing, Cease? We saw this earlier in the year, and then it kind of shifted back, but now we're seeing it shift back where Derrick Henry is not dishing out punishment. He's absorbing punishment, right? Mm-hmm. If you watch the shortcuts, all the runs of Derrick Henry the last 3 weeks, you're going to see him taking a lot of punishment. You're going to see Cincinnati. I was talking about this with Joe Goodberry. I always like to name drop Joe Goodberry. You name drop Howie Roseman. I name drop Joe Goodberry. That Cincinnati was really taking their shots at Henry. I mean, with extra prejudice, with extra sense of again, it reminds me of watching our Steelers growing up. Cease. That was always the hallmark of a Steelers team. Like, you're going to know you played the Steelers that week. Like, it's almost like a game. Yeah. And it's like the game is just an excuse to dish out some physical punishment. It's like a different kind of therapy, right? And you're seeing Derrick Henry. It cannot last forever. And with the Philadelphia defensive line this week, so we're going to see. And again, what does this all lead back to? Ryan Tannehill, are you up for this? Because I think I already know if Jalen Hurts is.
Yeah, I think I already know as well if Jalen Hurts is, and that's could be pretty fantastic. And remember what they did when they got A.J. Brown, because there were plenty of rumblings. Jalen Hurts had flashed, but it's not like he'd ever been consistent. And they changed the offense to just run the hell out of the ball because Jalen Hurts wasn't developed as a passer. So Roseman makes that deal for A.J. Brown, Bloom, with a question mark at quarterback. Yeah. Like, he's a sure thing now, and he's going to get a huge contract. He's going to make mega millions and fully guaranteed and all that. Yeah. Now he's going to do that. Right. So A.J. Brown was like a multiplier. Like, we're going to pay A.J. Brown, and that's going to make us pay our quarterback.
Right.
But they found out about him, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Optimism, right? A.J. Brown brings you into that reality, though, where it emboldens Jalen Hurts. He takes these steps, and you still have a couple more years of his rookie contract. And again, Howie Roseman is acting accordingly. Something to watch. And look, Jalen Hurts is just playing. What's really something to behold is for fantasy, he's still the guy. 140. What did he have last week? Cease 147. Did he have 100 yards rushing and 100 yards passing in a half last week? In a half?
Eddie.
So, and what's really again something to behold is, unlike the typical quarterbacks that would do this, it's not necessarily flashy. It's actually very workmanlike how he gets his yards on the ground. It's not because he has 4.4 speed or something like that. It's just because the things have slowed down for him, and he has enough advantages. Again, adding AJ Brown, that for fantasy he's taking these teams apart. And part of that last week was Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders looked as good as he has all year. Again, 2 carries away from his career high, and for a season. And he's going against Tennessee. So we have both Miles Sanders coming off that great game. It's really hard to bench him, but it is Tennessee's run defense. And then tactically, how does Philadelphia defuse that? And so really interesting tests here for both teams of how they adjust to kind of a lopsided defense that they can take advantage of, but maybe not in a way that it's their comfort zone. And maybe the answer is Devontae Smith. I mean, maybe this is one of those switcheroos where it's all about AJ Brown. You're going to give all this attention to AJ Brown, and the Slim Reaper comes in. What a game, Cease. I mean, again, this reminds me of the Cincinnati Tennessee game.
Football. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's Tennessee, and it's Mike Vrabel. Let's take a moment out to appreciate what Mike Vrabel adds, because he has the complete attention of his team, and that's why they exceed expectations at every turn. So I have a feeling part of me wants to say Philly at home. Oh, they're going to stack up advantage. Tennessee, man, they find a way. Remember, Leak Willis, they took Kansas City to the brink.
Yeah, and this is what Tennessee's built for. Like, what? Nobody believes in us. We're traveling, hostile environment. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. All right, Bloom, we got one game left.
No,
it's not a good one.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Let's get this out of the way.
And I won't belabor it, people, but I am going to do the big reveal, because I know it's a Walter Payton hat, but I'm also hoping that it's a Sean Payton hat, because the Broncos are wasting their time with Nathaniel Hackett. It is Broncos. It is Ravens up next. This one's in Baltimore, and I don't really want to talk about the Broncos, but I will. Won't talk out starting Greg Dulcich or whatever, and don't start Russell Wilson, although I think whatever. Like, it's just whatever. Nathaniel Hackett's out there. None of this matters.
Yeah.
None of this matters. Like, Latavius Murray could do Marlon Mack. Like, yeah, the names. Kendall Hinton is I don't care, because Nathaniel Hackett is still out there.
Right.
A complete and total waste of time. That's all this is. That's all the Broncos are doing, and that's all the message they're sending to the fans. And the spin, and God bless Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero. One, they're both friends of ours. And Mike Garafolo was on 5 Minute Drill. Yeah. I think it might have been his first. I think it might have been his first TV appearance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Russ Landy first on Draft TV.
Yep.
And
Mike Garafolo on 5 Minute Drill. Just look it up. 5 Minute Drills are still on YouTube, and they're funny to watch.
It was when the iPhones were brand new. I think iPhones came out like within a month or two. We're like, let's go to the iPhone.
I know. It's so funny. We had the little iPhone graphic with Mike Garafolo's picture. Like, and of course, Daniel Jeremiah made his debut on the Audible. We had Daniel for 2 years, thanks to you, Bloom, when he first got on Twitter. But either way, there was the report that surfaced, and I haven't written about it yet, denverfan.com. I don't know if I will. I got to go to Broncos as soon as this is over. We're a little bit overtime, Bloom, but I can shower quickly. But either way, Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero on NFL Insiders, they reported like Hackett hasn't lost the locker room, but Russ has. I'm like, I love you guys. That's what we're told. And again, if you want the tea and the fantasy stuff, whatever, Broncos suck. Okay. Nathaniel Hackett sucks. But the tea is this. There are people that will promote ideas to you in the media, in national media, plenty of guys, right? The idea now is like, it's not Hackett. It's not Hackett. It's not Hackett. It's not Hackett. That's bogus. That's bogus. And I know who's doing it. I can't tell you who. I wish I could. And actually, I like who's doing it, but they're doing a terrible job. They're doing a terrible job, because when you talk to players, you think players Again, I'm totally guessing. I'm totally guessing if these players. Now, I will say this, and I've said this on air. Brandon McManus said, like, hey, I hope Hackett gets another year. So there are some guys that still believe in Nathaniel Hackett. But what you're hearing from Denver is what people are being told. And in a way, they're being told to say that. So again, it's not about Mike and it's not about Tom. Both are dear friends. I actually freaked out Tom one time on his show when he had his radio show in Minnesota because I told him I loved him. Oh. He didn't know how to react to that. He's like,
yeah,
thanks.
Yeah,
thank you for your support. Right?
I love
that
hot
beer
dogs
commercial, right? And we thank you for your support. But anyway, so I love those two guys, but I want to make sure everybody knows the truth. And the truth of the matter is this. Yeah, Russ pissed guys off with the 6 parking spots. Okay. Russ pissed guys off with his lunch tray antics, right? Like it's high school. It's tall grade school with the Broncos, and Russ will sit down at the lunch table and like won't say anything when you're having a conversation. Like it's weird. And then when he says something, he brings up a different topic. Like he doesn't jump into the conversation. So again, tall grade school, right? Where can I sit? Imagine that. You're Russell Wilson, you're $250 million, and you're like, where do I go sit? Instead of being the guy that everybody wants to sit with, right? Yeah. So just know Nathaniel Hackett hasn't lost the locker room. And I love how people are breaking their arms, patting themselves on the back. Like, that's something. Yeah. You know why? Because there are certain entities that are trying to promote that to you. Okay. Talk to the players. Hackett's lost the locker room. Not everybody. Russell Wilson's pissed guys off for a long time. They want to like him, but they're afraid to warm up to him because he doesn't seem real. And who gives a damn about the fantasy side?
Right.
Start your Broncos.
Yeah. I mean, see, this again is, I heard you two were getting a divorce. No? That's surprised to see you here together, I mean, right?
Right.
And we all have to go along and play along until everybody realizes there's going to be a divorce. My first 3 words: return the channel. You just want to turn the channel, different show. We already know how the show ends. Let's watch something else. But Cortland Sutton, Latavius Murray, kind of just accompanying your general vibe. Like if you want to, sure, maybe. You never know. But I do know that Baltimore, turning the channel of Baltimore, they need to win. Boy, they need to win this game. I mean, again, nothing is promised. They have an easier schedule than Cincinnati, but Cincinnati has a way of rising to the occasion. Baltimore losing these games inexplicably, right? Just inexplicably losing to Miami, although we see what that revealed, speaking about the schedule gods and the NFL giving us reveals. And they should be able to beat this Denver team, but can they? Because maybe this is a game where Denver's defense tries to put their stamp on it. And again, you guys, Euro Evero saying, don't forget about me.
Yeah, don't forget about me, who could have a coach. Anyway, I don't want to belabor it. I think I already have, Bloom. But like the Ravens doing whatever they want. It all works. Mandrews works. Is Isaiah likely going to play? That'll work. He's my sleeper of the week. If they have a Baltimore uniform, they are my sleeper of the week. Brought to you by Sleeper. Yeah, they're all going to do great. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins may make his debut.
Sure.
He'll be a sleeper of the week.
Yeah, I think you want to bet the over on production for Baltimore's offense here, even though they have been a bit morose lately. There's that word again. Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, hopefully isn't too banged up. Gus Edwards, we'll see if J.K. Dobbins is back, but Edwards should still lead the backfield in touches, get those touchdown opportunities. Josh Oliver, we'll see if there's momentum there. But again, Denver wants to make a game into a street fight at this point. They can't score more than 18 points. So they're going to try to make it an ugly game. They want to make them rely on Justin Tucker. And we've seen Baltimore, that same Carolina team that beat Denver, was a 13-3 game a couple weeks ago with Baltimore. So there's a chance that Denver could drag this into a street fight, which then should make us doubt Baltimore, because it's going to get a lot harder in the playoffs than Denver.
I just realized with my hat on backwards, I look like Mr. Ballin. So look, and I did not get this flannel from Mr. Ballin because now he sells flannels on us. You see, that's what we need to do. I guess we do have Sorry Joe t-shirts. Everyone go get a Sorry Joe t-shirt. Yeah. We sell enough Sorry Joe t-shirts, and then maybe Joe can be like, "Hey, buddies, how about you start Sorry Joe Plus?"
Yeah.
Like, okay.
That's
Joe.
That's how we convinced Joe that Sorry Joe Plus is going to work.
Yes. Yes, that's how we do it. Is everyone goes out and gets a Sorry Joe t-shirt. I just think it's funny that Mr. Ballin sells flannels. It's like you can get flannel anywhere, baby. Costco. Costco, right? There you go. There you go. Totally unique. Oh yeah, sleeper of the week. Hey, sleeper, everybody.
It's time for the Sleeper of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
Sleeper of the week. I mean, he's playing good football, and as the chat room pointed out, like the Lions trust him, and you're gonna go with your big trust. You're gonna go with your trust, and for me, sleeper of the week, that's the guy behind Jamal Williams, named Justin Jackson. So, Bloom, let's go. Who are some of your Week 13 preview Part 1's sleepers of the week?
Yeah, a Jets running back. Can I just say that? Is that we allowed to do that?
I think
Team running
can.
back.
Yes.
Team running back. No, I'm gonna again. I want to highlight Dontrell Hilliard, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with the potential for rational coaching. Todd Downing, oh man, he's got a lot of stuff to worry about right now, more than just this game. But this is a game that, whether by game script or by taking some heat off of Derrick Henry or making the offense more balanced or putting Ryan Tannehill in more situations where he can get in a rhythm and he can really start to get his feel, it should be a game that Dontrell Hilliard plays a bigger role, and we've seen him be explosive. So I just like talking about that because it makes me think about the fact that that game's happening. And every week, going forward, we're going to have games like this. It's an exciting time, whatever happens with your fantasy team, even if you cover the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, there you go. And thanks to the chat room for brightening up our day.
Always.
That's for sure. And if you really want a Sorry Joe Plus t-shirt, we do have them at footballguys.com. If I knew how to screen share and do that, Bloom, if I actually took the time to learn how to do it. Sorry, it's a time thing. It's a time thing. That's for sure. Footballguys.com. Check it out. Yeah. Sorry Joe Plus. They'll just Sorry Joe shirts. See, we need like a Sorry Joe Plus shirt, but it needs to be like, I don't know, like a little more revealing, right?
Football
like
Guys After Dark.
Top.
Yeah. Well, it should say Football Guys After Dark on the back.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry Joe Plus. Football Guys After Dark.
That's gonna happen. We're manifesting it right now. I'm manifesting this. Follow Sigmund Bloom on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. Follow me on Twitter at Cecil Lammey. Follow the show on Twitter at The Audible. We thank you guys and ladies. We love you guys and ladies. Love you all. Love the chat room. Love our listeners. Thank you for helping grow the channel. I know it's annoying, but do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Get that from Casually Comics. So thank you all for that. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are The Audible, everyone out there. Until the next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned and stay frosty.